Tonight is your night. Tonight is everything that you hoped for. So just step into your moment.
For me, the music itself creates a world, and that Antony then picked people or icons that resonated with the world of the music, and so that really was the thing that was hard to define what exactly that was, but it just came out of the experience of doing it and the intuitive notion of that whether we know or not, we're doing something that has a certain kind of quality.
Charlie was immersed in the process of making the performance during the tour. So really the collection of the candid footage and the interview footage was sort of my area, or I sort of decided I want to document this. Charlie was reticent to create a film of it until he felt like he really perfected the material, because he was always working and
I was always like, oh God.
He was always working on the evolution of the performance material that he was creating. So it wasn't until after the tour that we started to look at the material that we collected, both the live portraiture that he had created during the concerts, the documentary footage of the concerts themselves that we commissioned to be made in the theaters, and then the candid footage that I commissioned someone to capture as we toured, and finally this other tier of material, which was the interviews. And then we looked at the sum of those strands and tried and imagined a new piece, with a huge new component being the pedestrian narratives of a lot of the models. The original piece, there was no pedestrian narrative. There was no life narrative rooting the images in a certain reality. The images floated freely, and the audience was left to project content into specific content if they felt like it or not. The portraits were anonymous in the performance, whereas in the film the portraits are attached to a very specific, in some cases attached to a very specific narratives, life stories, and to very specific communities.
To be a woman, and to be an artist, and to be a transsexual, for the first time, it was like it was okay.
Hope there's someone who take care of me.
I never thought that I could have a life.
When I die.
I just thought that, the pain would just enclose on me.
I don't think it's in this way that I didn't feel comfortable being a girl. It was just that I didn't feel comfortable being what I thought was the only girl in the world who liked girls.
There was something about turning, which was about observing like a feminine deity, or a female deity in its various incarnations, like, the Kali with like 100 heads. I mean, also there was something about the shuddering of the image as it turned, which kind of was evoked by the multiple exposures that sort of suggested like 1,000, the hero with 1,000 faces. You know what I mean? That's kind of idea, and it wasn't that we thought about that, but I did say from the first time we did it that if I had to be stuck in heaven, a Christian idea of heaven, as paralyzed in some eternal space, I would want to be watching that image of these women turning. And if I can't die, and freezing.
Because there's so much injury and growing up. It takes a while. First you have to fight your parents, and then you have to go to school and fight. It's like a grip on your heart, and you feel that tightness in your chest, and you can't, take a full breath.
I am some sun. I am some bone. The piece obviously is wrought with issues of identity and it's very, very sensitive, and the semantics of gender identity especially are transforming every year. You know, a word that was meaningful 10 years ago is now offensive now. You know what I mean? So and the public consciousness about gender is really in its dawn. You know, it's just dawning right now, and especially about gender variance. So it's a minefield, you know, for the trans women who are involved in the piece, and the fact that, you know, and the women, not all the women in the piece are trans women. So it's really a whole panorama of different kinds of downtown femaleness and what I was calling future femininity.
One of the things that it wasn't at St. Anne's and isn't in the film is that Antony, I mean, talk about, you know, making it into some kind of theatrical event. As the audience came in, there was Martin Luther King's.
Yeah, it was one of his speeches.
One of his speeches, and it really set the tone of. It's kind of shocking and great. Set the tone for what was to come. That this was like hardcore.
It was hardcore.
No, I
Drawing
know.
those lines, something that's really beautiful and soft and hardcore. It's really exciting.
In junior high, I found that East Village, and I saw this girl in this like genius black dress and like neon pink hair and shoes to match, and I was like, wait a minute, there might be life on Earth.
Time has come again.